Hi, it's Joe here from Joe's Country Junction. I'm busy here today working on a couple of my projects. I did a lot of sewing upstairs over the last couple of days, enjoying my sewing room, and now I am downstairs and I have to get some other work done. And Rosie's at the door, so I'm going to quick let her in and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Can you believe I was interrupted that quick already? That happens here. I get interrupted all the time. Today I'm working on those Spiderweb string blocks. I got all of them sewn, and so now the next thing I'm up to is I'm starting to trim. And I was debating when I was going to do a video if this was something that I should do a video about, because most people, when you think of Sew with Joe, you always think about the sewing aspect of things, but you don't always think of the other things that go with sewing. So today I'm just gonna do some trimming while I chat with you, and you can see what I'm up to. Whoops. I gotta make sure I concentrate on what I'm doing though, because there I just made a wrong cut. I wanna make sure these are nice and square. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a block like this, like I showed you before. You can see the paper here, and I'm just trimming up even with the edges. And I thought I'd just chat with you all while I do that. I'm just using basic equipment, rotary cutter and a ruler. I am a big fan of the Quilters Select rulers. I don't know if you've seen these before. You can see that they're not transparent like a lot of rulers, and that's because on the back side, they kind of have a, it's not a sticky finish, but it's not a smooth finish either. And so when I place it on the thing that I'm gonna cut, and I push down to cut, it doesn't slip as easy as a regular ruler. And so I really have enjoyed those. And I have this size, and I have a 5-inch square one, and they are from Quilters Select, and I'll put a link for them below. But it's been my favorite kind of ruler. Kayla and I were at a quilt shop one day. We were at a quilt maker shop in Manchester, Iowa, and when we were there, we were at the checkout, and the lady had a display of rulers, and she said something about, oh, have you tried the rulers? And I was just standing there, and I was thinking to myself, I am not falling for this gimmick. There is no way I'm going to fall for this gimmick and buy another ruler. I just am not. And so I said, no, I haven't, and just tried to be kind of, evasive. Okay, now Rosie wants water. So I was trying to just kind of be evasive and not really act very interested, so that she just wouldn't talk about it, so then I just wouldn't be tempted to buy it. So Kayla goes, oh, she goes, I actually need a new ruler. And I thought, oh, darn it, now I got to listen to this, and now I'm going to end up being tempted to buy a ruler. So I was just like, nope, you are not buying a ruler. You are not buying a ruler. You are not buying a ruler, because I was trying to stay on a budget. Guess what? I tried the ruler, and I bought a ruler. So I'm glad I did, though, because once I tried it, that's all it took for me to realize that they don't slide like normal rulers. And I've gotten so used to them, and I probably should buy myself another one for the upstairs sewing room, because I just keep these good ones down here on the main floor in the kitchen island. I do most of my cutting here at the kitchen island. I always have. It's not that I don't have a spot upstairs for it. There's just more room here at the kitchen island, and I really like the roominess that I can spread out and have the pieces all over. And I have counter right behind me, and a lot of times I'll keep part of the stuff that I'm already cut there. And I don't know, I just like the kitchen island much better. And I think it's a better height for my back when I'm cutting too. in the past, I've always had child care, and it's cutting and trimming things like this. Trimming like this or cutting out a quilt is something I've always been able to do, like when the kids were napping, because I only kept the kids on the main floor of the house, and they would all fall asleep and be napping, and I needed to be quiet so that they could stay sleeping. So I would have to find something to do, and I just didn't have that much book work or stuff like that I could do at the computer. So I would trim and cut and iron here at the island. And then I think after I got in a habit of doing that, I've just continued to do that and make the island my kind of cutting and ironing home. I'm really liking how these blocks are turning out. I think I told you before that I've made a spiderweb string quilt, only last time when I made it, my section here that's red was black. And if you want to know more about this quilt and all the details, I'll just tell you a quick overview. I did mine using Bonnie Hunter's pattern, and you can find it in her free pattern section on Quiltville. And it's called Spiderweb String. And I did a different video earlier. My first Sew with Joe video was about the Spiderweb string block. And I'm just trimming away. I do have a rotary mat, but these blocks are just long enough that from the long side from here to here, that the rotary mat that I have is only like 12 by 12 or so. A blog reader gifted it to me, and I'm very thankful for it, but it's just a little bit small for these blocks. About this time of day, Rosie gets a little anxious and she thinks she needs to keep going outside all the time. So if the bell rings, it's her, but she really doesn't need to go outside because, as you know, she was just outside. But she gets a little needy and wants a little extra attention because I'm up and moving around, and she knows that now is a better time to get attention from me than any other time. I'm going to have these cut in no time at all. And then I'm not going to rip papers on these at this point because I am going to wait and save them for the childcare kids to do, because I have a couple girls that come after school and they love to quilt with me. And so they think that ripping the papers off the back is actually part of quilting. Well, I guess it is part of quilting, but they like to feel part of all what I'm doing, and that's their way to do that. I do recommend when you're trimming blocks like this down to make sure you have a good new sharp blade, because it makes cutting much easier. Are you one of those people? I know I am, that I don't change the blade, and 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 then all of a sudden I change the blade and I think, why didn't I do that sooner? It's just silly how we do that. But I swear every time I change a blade, I always think, oh, if I would have just done that, you know, like 3 projects ago, that would have been a good move, but I just don't. As I'm filming this, it's early December. It's December 4th. Tomorrow is Carl's birthday, and he has the day off from work today, and he went on a little adventure. He had a doctor's appointment and then decided to go on a little adventure. That was kind of his birthday present to himself, to go to his doctor's appointment and take the day. So we don't have any big plans. I'll probably get a cake made here in a little bit, and maybe have Clarissa's family over for ice cream. But other than that, birthdays aren't a big deal here. I already gave him some money to buy a power tool. So he did that a couple weeks ago. I only have a few more left here to trim. I do not have any Christmas decorations out yet. I've been kind of slow on that. I kind of just need I don't know, a couple days to kind of like get caught up. I think I got behind on some of the things I normally do after I was working so much in the sewing room. It was hard to get focus on everything else because I was so excited about getting my sewing room done that I didn't get some of my other things done, or they got kind of set aside a little bit. And that's what, I mean, it happens. It's kind of part of life that you have to focus on one thing or another and things get left behind. But so I have no decorations out. Last night I sat down at the computer and wrote a Christmas letter. And that was really hard to write for this year. It just, you know, COVID and everything. And normally I kind of focus on a lot of the things that happen throughout the year, and I always put a picture of the family. Well, we've never all been together at one time. Rosie, what are you doing? We've never been at, all of the kids have not been home since February, all at the same time. So we haven't had any pictures, or we haven't done anything. Oh, Rosie, no. So we haven't had a picture with everybody, that everybody could be in it. And that was a little frustrating because I didn't know quite how to write the letter. And so we had one picture at Georgia and Gannon's birthday party in February when we were all together, and then COVID, and then we haven't had a picture since. Well, since then, Buck's daughter Lily's been born, so I haven't had a grandkid picture that has everybody in it. So it just kind of felt a little awkward because I didn't know what picture to include. And so, I don't know, it was just, it's kind of silly, but the whole thing was just kind of, grinding on me a little bit to try to figure out how to write a letter. So what I ended up doing is I wrote a letter that had several pictures in it, and it's kind of like just the highlight days of the year. And I just included pictures of the grandkids only. And I had to laugh. I had Calissa take the letter and proofread it. And Calissa says, "But Mom, we're not in the Christmas letter anymore." And it's like, well, I know you're not in the Christmas letter anymore, but you're old enough now that you can kind of write your own Christmas letter. And I just kind of wrote more about the grandkids instead. And she goes, well, I kind of miss it the other way. Well, I just don't know what to do. I guess I can't please them all. So I just am going to leave the letter the way it is and be happy I even got one done, because that's kind of the way things are going lately. I'm just going to be happy with the things I do get done. I do have, I think most of my Christmas shopping done, which I'm glad about. I always shop really early because I can't do the stress very good of not having things done. People who wait till like this time of year to shop, I just think they're crazy, because that would just stress me out, because I'd be afraid I couldn't find what I wanted, or I don't know. It's just easier to afford too if I do it gradually. Oops. This one kind of didn't get trimmed quite good enough. So I have the Christmas presents wrapped. I have a couple things to get. I usually get something for my mailman because they're so awesome with taking care of all the packages that come my way. And so I really appreciate that they deliver them up to my house. They don't make me go pick them up at the post office. I super appreciate that. So at Christmas, I usually do a little bit of something for them. And just, I think I need to put like a book or a candy or something in with a couple of the presents I have too, just because they're not quite equal. I think we all do that. We try to find ways to equal the presents out. Well, I have these all trimmed. Yay! So I am going to put them into this tote of other ones that I have that are working their way towards being finished. And then I am going to grab my next project, and then I'm moving to ironing then, and I'll set that up and be right back. Okay, I'm back. I switched out my cutting mat and rotary cutter equipment for a wool mat to iron on and my iron. So I'm ready to go. If you've been following along, I am making this quilt. It's a Holy Toledo quilt, and it is from Bonnie Hunter's book, Scraps and Shirt Tails 2. And so you can see there are a bajillion triangles in there, some big and some small. And I am actually making it bigger than the original pattern, so there's more. And that's okay. I like my quilts big, and so that's what I'm working on here. I stayed up later one night and I got all of the small triangles done, and yesterday I had the dark and the lights trimmed, and I had them cut into squares, but I didn't have it cut in half on the diagonal, so I cut them in half on the diagonal and I started sewing them. I don't have a lot of those done, but I have a few, and I'm going to grab a scissor. It's just that quick. I keep my equipment that I need for working on the island here. I keep that in my laundry room, which is just one door that way. And well, it's not even exactly a door that way. It's just a doorway away. And I keep my equipment there. I am not the best presser in the world. I do my best, and that's about all I can do, and I'm pretty content with that. So when I set up to iron, these are big pieces, so I just lay a couple out and I iron, and then I trim. Oh, these both. Okay. I'm going to have dog ears on both ends. So I cut dog ears as I go, and then I start a stack. One thing that I think is very important is as I iron, I make sure that I stack the blocks so that they're all oriented the same way. So this has the dark at the top, and so I'm going to put this one at the dark at the top too. If you do that when you iron, there is a better chance that when it comes along time to start sewing your block together, you'll have a better chance of having your block oriented the right way, and you'll be able to keep into more of a rhythm with not having to stop and twist and turn your blocks. So I'm going to make sure I lay these down so that they're still oriented the same way. And these are really big, so I'm only able to do 2 at a time. Which that's okay. My quilt is going to be made entirely from men's shirts. I was really lucky. We live in an area that has a couple really good thrift stores, and I'm able to get shirts pretty cheap. The store that was really, really good, they closed, and so I was not able to get shirts from them anymore. And they used to give me a really big bag from like Walmart or the grocery store, and they would just say that you could fill the bag. Well, I would take shirts and roll them up in a little ball, you know, kind of like a little log like this, and I could get a lot of shirts in one bag, and it was only like $2. It was awesome. So I cut this quilt out a long time ago, and I'm finally just getting to sew it now. It's a quilt that's listed on my Dirty Dozen list. you can see my blocks have dog ears. That's those little points that stick out like this. And so I am trimming them as I go because I don't want that extra bulk in the seam when it comes time to sew the blocks together. And a lot of times I don't even pick them up when I do it. I just kind of rotate my scissors like this and clip while the blocks are laying flat. Oops. When I lay the blocks down, I try to orientate them so that the dark side is up. So when I take my iron, here, I'll move this over this way so you can see a little better. Oh, yeah, we'll just do this. This will work. And I'll move that out of the way. So I orientate them so the dark side is up. You can see the dark side is up. And then I lift. A lot of times I take the nose of the iron and kind of flick it under and pull it back. And that way I don't have to, because I want to be pressing to the dark. So I want to keep the dark side up. And when I open it, then the dark side lays out. Okay, there's a couple more blocks done. This one has some strings on it. That's one thing working with shirts. I think I end up with more strings just because I think the fabric doesn't have sizing on it as much as new fresh bought fabric from town would. Oh, I lost my end. Where'd it go? Up here. This is my end. I kind of laugh. Kelly and I have taught at a couple retreats and people have said, oh, what are you going to teach us? What are you going to show us? And I laughingly kind of say, and this is the truth, I am going to show you how to fudge and still make your quilt look nice. Because I'm not a perfectionist. If you saw some of the quilts that we do and are still published in national magazines, and if you saw us sewing them along the way, you'd wonder, you know, that quilt isn't perfect. How does it get to be in a magazine? And the answer to that is Kelly and I are some of the best fudgers you've ever seen. And so we do our best, but we don't really stress about making things perfect. And that's okay. Your quilt does not need to be perfect to look nice. And I think so many people are discouraged from quilting because they want everything to be perfect. And in the end, the only people who are going to know that your quilt isn't perfect is you and anyone you tell. Other than that, your quilt is going to look pretty darn good to anybody else. And I always try to remember that when I'm making something, because sometimes if I'm at the long arm, I think, oh, I need to go rip that out. And then I think to myself, the person that I'm giving this to knows nothing about quilting, like zero. So they would never know if this little motif had one more bump in it than the other motifs. And so I just kind of constantly try to remind myself that I don't know who said it, but done is better than perfect. And that's just really so true. And so I'm gradually working on getting these blocks done, but not necessarily perfect. This quilt was cut out, several years ago. And I just kind of threw in and used any shirt that I had. I wasn't real picky about colors. I think if I had to do it over again, I would try to make all of it blue or limit the color palette, but I have everything in here from oranges to here I'm using yellow as the light color. And had I cut it out now, I can't even speak. Had I cut it out now, I probably would have limited the color palette. Or just made it like blue and green or something like that. But it is what it is, and I'm going to just finish it. And another thing I've decided too, if a quilt isn't my absolutely favorite, most perfect quilt ever, I can always gift it. But then again, I'm going to gift it to somebody who doesn't know much about quilting. Oh, silly. Okay, get my nose in there. I just keep trimming. I often try to figure out what's my favorite part of quilting, and I have yet to figure that out. And I often think about something like that when I'm sitting here ironing and ironing and ironing. I think, God, do you really like, is this your favorite part of quilting? And then I think, well, I don't know. I know my least favorite part, or the part I feel most intimidated about is the long arming. I think that's the thing that I've done the least amount. So I think that is probably something that I probably fret about the most, is my long arming. I love just piecing, and I don't mind ironing like this. I don't mind binding now that I bind by a machine. I don't know. But piecing is probably my very, very favorite. Well, I take that back. I really, really like picking the colors and the planning stage and putting things together. I really, really like that part too. Okay, that's the last one I have sewn of the big ones now. And so I am going to put them in a pile, and I'm going to try to set those aside over here. And then I am going to take the back of my scissors, and see the straight side right here. I'm going to take that and I'm going to scrape, and I am going to get all those little dog ears and the extra thread off my mat the best I can before I start with the next set of triangles to iron. Okay, so that's pretty quick. I just do that. I think you almost have to do something like that when you have a wool mat, because the pieces do stick to the wool. I'm going to grab the next pieces to iron, and that's these. Look at all of these. Yep. No, we're not going to iron all of these in one video segment. No way. There's too many. You'll get so bored of me. Okay. There we go. So with these, I pretty much do the same thing. I try to do it a little bit more like this. I hope you can see. I put one row down here. I put one row down here. And I'll grab another row and put another row down here. So I just kind of calculated out how big my mat is. And then I do this. And then I start ironing, and I iron these top ones first. And I just lift and iron, and I leave the iron on there. And while that one's getting hot, I start picking the top triangle of the next one, and so it's ready when I am ready to move the iron. It kind of works out good timing. Oops, this one's got a little wrinkle. Okay. And that's Rosie scratching at the door. Remember I said that she's kind of busy this time of day? She just truly is. So I'm going to let her in. Okay. Rosie's had quite a bit of action today because, well, it's action for her anyway. She loves it when any delivery guy is around. She's got to run from window to window to see how as they come up, and she wants to see them come to the door, and then she's got to go sniff the door after they've been here. And today, the truck has been coming around and delivering LP to our area. So she has ran from window to window as the LP truck goes from house to house around here, because most of us get our LP from the same company. So he's been delivering LP across the street, and now he's doing my side of the street. And so Rosie has just been popping around from window to window to make sure she knows what's going on. These triangles I cut with my Easy Angle ruler when I cut them out. So they only have one dog ear. And so I'm just going like this and trimming off. As I cut the dog ear, it also cuts the pieces apart. And then I just stack those up. And then I have our first little row done. And again, I'm making sure that when I lay these down, I orientate these all the same way so that the dark section is up. And when it comes time to sew these pieces together, I know when I have them oriented the right way, I can go like this and I'll be able to sew these two together, and I won't have to pick up one and one's this way and one's that way. They'll just all be oriented the same way, so there's a better chance that I won't get one piece of the block turned the wrong direction when I sew it. It took me many, many years to figure that out, and that's somewhere I'm kind of deficient in anyway. I'm somebody who often gets one part of the block oriented in the wrong direction. And so I've worked really hard to try to get a little bit better at that and kind of work the system so that I set myself up for success. Okay, I'm setting up another section to iron. Okay, here we are, starting up at the top again. So I just leave the iron set there as I had prepped the next one to open. And there's a lot of people that take the time to cut these all apart first, and I don't do that. I like to keep them in a string, and just like we chain piece, I guess I call this chain ironing. And I think you get the same idea with chain ironing that you do with chain piecing. There's just less times you're setting things down and picking things up. There just adds less steps into the process. So then I think that makes a person faster when they're quilting. And although I don't want to necessarily speed through projects, I do like working so that I'm efficient. And a lot of times too, I like to mix up how I pick up the pieces, because then the pieces aren't all the same. Pairings aren't right next to each other. There. Okay, time for another set. We have had absolutely beautiful weather the last few days, and I have been taking Rosie out on a walk. And I just looked over into my laundry room. I got to take the camera and show you. Can you see Rosie? I think she knows she's in a little bit of trouble. She just climbed into my clean laundry basket. But she's content, so I'm going to leave her there. It's just my home clothes anyway. So anyway, I've been working really hard to try to take advantage of the nice weather and get Rosie out and take her for a walk. She gets a little restless in the afternoon if she doesn't get a walk. We don't walk super far, maybe 2 miles probably is what I would guess that we walk. And it's just enough that gets me out of the house and gets some fresh air, which is good for me. And it gets her out of the house and gets her some fresh air, which is good for her. Because she's like just a little Energizer bunny. I keep thinking she's over a year old, she's going to calm down. She's over a year old, she's going to calm down. And my kids keep telling me, Mom, I think you have to wait till she's 2. And so here I am with a very active dog, and I'm starting to feel a little less active. So I wish we were a little bit better prepared, but she's fun. I appreciate having her, and I have to remind myself from time to time that she will get a little calmer. It was so funny. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, Buck and his family, well, part of his family, came to my house, and Buck was going to try to help do some jobs around here, and he helped get a lot of the things done in the sewing room, which I'm so grateful for. And when he was here, Buck's daughter, Lucy, is just the sweetest little girl. And she just turned 3 this week. And she was petting on the dog and loving on the dog. And we're all like, oh, she just loves dogs. It's so sweet. She loves dogs. And Scotty, her older brother, who's 5, says, yeah, we need a fat, lazy dog like this one. And that happened to be Kelly's dog, Puppy Cat. And because the kids just love Puppy Cat because she's super calm. She'll just lay on the couch, and she's a great dog. And just, she wasn't always that way. I have to keep reminding myself. She used to be a terrible licker, and she licked all the time, and like she'd lick right on your face. And it doesn't bother me if a dog licks my hand or something, just a couple licks, but I really don't like my face to get licked. But Puppy Cat was a face licker, but she's not anymore. She's super calm now and very nice dog, but she's going to be 11, and which starts to make me nervous, but she's a really good dog, very gentle. And I didn't really know 8 years ago I'd ever say that about her, but she is a great dog now. And so I keep telling myself, Rosie has a chance to be great yet. Just not quite yet. As of the Sunday before Christmas, I'll have had her for a year, but she was an older puppy when I got her. So she was actually born in September. So her birthday was in September, but I got her in December. So here's to hoping a year from now, she'll be a calmer dog. I'm not holding hope that she'll be as calm as Puppy Cat, but a calmer dog at least. Normally when I'm going to do a big job like this, I often listen to an audiobook. It's something easy to do and passes the time. People used to ask, how I got so many audiobooks listened to, and it's because I usually listen to them versus music. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a second, and I'm going to scrape these little guys off here again. Remember, I'm using the back side of my scissor and just scraping them all up into a little pile. I'll just throw them over there for now. I'll throw them in the garbage after the video. The only problem with walking right now is that just like everywhere else, it gets dark so much earlier. So last night I didn't get out until 3:45 or 4:45. We got out and it was pretty dark by the time we got back. Not that I don't feel safe in our town to walk. It's just that I just feel better if I'm home before dark. Our streets have gotten better, but they're still not the best. So I like worry if there's a pothole or something like that I won't see. And I'll trip and lay on the street. Goodness knows I don't want to do that. So I try to be home before dark. And besides that, Carl's home at 5:30 from work. And so we usually eat supper right away, which I very much enjoy. I love eating supper then and have everything cleaned up. And then I have some time in the evening to do whatever I want to do if supper gets over at 5:30. Well, starts at 5:30. We're done by 6. But I never seem to get myself out the door very quick when it comes time to walk. I think I kind of procrastinate thinking, oh, let's not walk today. Let's not walk today. And then all of a sudden it's 4:30 and I'm like, oh, we have to walk. I don't know. It's kind of a silly little thing I do. Oops. All those tags. A lot of people are intimidated by half square triangles, but they're really not that hard. And it's just the same as with everything else. The more you practice, the better you get at it. I love this quilt, knew I would make it from the very first time I saw it. Here, I'm going to try to show you up close. You see that border of triangles where there's like 2 rows of 4 of them together and then 2 rows of 4 of them together. I just love the way that border looks like that when the triangles are bundled together the same. I just always really, really love that. And so I wanted to replicate that. And so that means I wanted to make the quilt. So that's what attracted me so much to this quilt. And continues to attract me to this quilt and makes me dedicated to doing all these half square triangles. If you love it enough, you'll do it. And that's kind of where I'm at. A lot of times after I iron one section, the iron just partially stays on the one that I previously ironed or goes back over it again. I feel super comfortable doing that. I'm not worried that the piece is gonna burn. I'm not worried that I didn't hold the iron on there long enough because it's probably going to get some heat when I iron the next one next to it because my iron goes over both of them. When I first pulled this project out to work on it, I kind of thought, well, I just need something kind of to wrap my brain. That's what I call sewing without having to think about it. So if you take a huge stack of half square triangles and sit by the machine and just run them through, it's kind of just like, for me, total stress relief. So I can think about anything I want, or I don't have to think about anything at all. And I just love that. And so some people get intimidated when they sit down and have to sew 470 half square triangles. Not me. That is just my favorite thing in the world, because I could always use a little downtime on the brain. Okay. This one has a little gunk on it. There. Oops. A few more pieces. These straightened out. Flipped around. My stacks are growing. Yahoo! I love seeing that. I already ironed a few of these before I got together with you, so I'm going to be adding these to those, but I still have all of these to do. Oh, my goodness. This is something that I'll probably leave out on the kitchen island. I have, if you're not familiar with my blog, I have 5 kids, and I have been a stay-at-home mom or done a job that I've worked from home, and my kids have been able to call and talk to me whenever they basically wanted to. So I get a lot of phone calls during the day from my kids. So oftentimes I want something to do while I'm talking to them, because I'm usually able to do 2 things at once fairly efficiently. So when they call, I always just take my phone, set my phone on speaker, and then I do a job like this, a job that I don't have to think about, or I fold laundry or do something like that. So I'll probably leave this sit on my island over the next few days, and then if somebody calls, I'll just plug my iron in and I will iron blocks while I talk to them. I know it sounds kind of silly, but if you have 5 kids and you're expecting probably about at least 5 to 7 phone calls in a day, you kind of want to have something that you can do to still be able to get something done, but still talk to the kids. And I love that they call. One day a friend of mine said, boy, your kids really call a lot. And it's like, yeah, my kids really do, but I love that. I love being part of their life, and I will happily trade time for the ability to have a close relationship with them. Oops, this one's a short one. It's okay, it'll work just fine. I'm going to probably take a few of these and tonight sew a couple blocks together. A lot of times just to be motivated, I'll stop and sew a couple blocks together so I can see them and go, ooh, I love that. And then I'll get motivated to keep going and keep working on the project. I was saying earlier that when I pulled this out, I really didn't have an intention of jumping into this UFO and completely finishing it. I just kind of had an intention to sew some triangles together and have something just brain rot to do. Well, then the stack stayed by my sewing machine. Then pretty soon I kind of got the motivation, well, you don't want to end this project right here and put it back in the cupboard, so you might as well finish sewing these triangles. Well, then the triangles got finished, and then I thought, well, you don't want to just go take this and put this back in the cupboard. You probably want to get those triangles ironed. Well, now I'm getting the triangles ironed, and now I'm thinking to myself, oh, you probably don't want to put that back in the cupboard. So you probably should just finish this whole quilt. And so that's what I'm leaning towards right now, is just finishing the whole quilt. It's just funny how projects evolve like that. And I just want to encourage you to, if you have a lot of UFOs like I've had, just do that. Pull one out and start on it and see where it takes you. And if it tells you to put it back in the cupboard, that's okay. You can put it back in the cupboard, but maybe there's a chance, like me and this project, maybe your project will tell you to just keep going and get her done. And that's what I'm hoping I can continue with this now that I've kind of got going on it. I really hate to put it away. It's been such a fun project so far. And I'm really excited to see the finished results. And I'm really excited to have one more UFO checked off my list. Because, I'm just fighting that list. So bad I want to get my UFOs whittled down. I'm super excited. I finished 3 baby quilts, and 2 of them were on my UFO list. So that took 2 more projects off my list for November, and that's just awesome. And hopefully, I don't know, with a little luck, maybe I could get this one done in December and I'll get 1 more checked off my list. I started July 1st with 32 UFOs on my list, and I'm actually doing pretty good. I'm really hoping that maybe by the time that the project ends up and we're back around to July 1st, I'm really hoping that maybe I would get to have just maybe 12 left, and then I could do the UFO challenge again next year, and then I would be completely caught up. That would be so awesome. Somehow I feel like with the UFOs hanging over my head, I feel a little guilty starting a lot of new projects, and I just really would like to get a little closer. I don't mind having a couple UFOs, but 32, that is too many. It's just way too many. So I think I'm going to probably quit right here. Rosie's back in my laundry basket sleeping. So as long as she's sleeping, I think I'm going to go sit down on the computer and get a blog post written. That sounds like a good thing for me to do today, because that's what I do, because I'm a blogger. I write blog posts. But that's what I know today about my Holy Toledo quilt. And I'm super excited to be getting this quilt one step further along. And I hope you didn't mind that this video was not at the sewing machine, and that this video was instead at the cutting table and at the ironing board. I think I probably iron different than most people. I think most people clip these apart and then they iron, and I think it's so much easier when I just keep them in a chain and iron the chain. And so I hope you take some time and give that a try and see how you like it, and see if that's something you want to incorporate into your sewing world too. And that's all for today. Bye.